your way out there and visit us. We had a really good one last week. We learned a lot. We got to talk a lot. It's pretty interesting. And we were in numbers, so, and we all have numbers memorized, right? We're all solid on numbers. Nobody needs to study numbers.
Is my name in there, Brian?
Yes, if you were here yesterday, your name is in here.
But we had school.
Yesterday.
Oh, wait, you were gone. No, you weren't here. Now your name's not in here. I don't know if these guys are girls. This is girls. All right, Sierra, you win. Where's Sierra at?
She's back there teaching a lesson.
Sierra won a apply for the gift card. So,
So where?
Lifeway.
That's what a life
All right, that was girls. These are the guys. Also, we have the last Sunday of Breaking Free. It's Bring a Stranger. I asked you last week how many of you were actually seriously and personally committed to doing that. So that's something that should hopefully weigh heavy on your heart if you haven't. All right. And then that night is God's Talent Night. Our fella, that was blank. Oh, I got blank ones in here.
That's my name.
Yeah.
Woohoo! I'm blank. That's mine.
Just because there's nothing up here doesn't make it
Got
your
all these
name.
blank ones. Here, we'll do this one to fill out.
Secretly hasn't looked over.
I can't write very hard.
Wesley, is that your handwriting?
The cursive?
It's something. All right, Wesley, you want the other gift card?
Woo!
There's $10 on it, okay?
What do you got life?
You don't get it.
Plenty of stuff.
CDs?
He splits it.
CD, journal,
60-40.
studies. You'd be surprised.
$10 worth of scriptural candy?
There you go. There he is. Yes, sir.
How about a stranger?
No, you can't just invite someone. Like, hey, I invited someone. Does that? No, that doesn't count. They gotta be here.
So they just have to show up.
They gotta show up.
Show up. That's right.
There's a chain up there if you need to drag them very far.
There is a chain. Okay. Other than that, the tickets for the Thunder game are due the 6th. That's right around the corner. So if you want to go to that, it's $22. If you don't have it to me by then, what? The date of the game is the 23rd of October. 13th, sorry. Yes, it's the 13th.
13th.
Someone kept saying the 23rd and they threw me off. I know, I'm talking. Shut up, DJ. I can say that. Alright, so yes, adults, I'm buying. If you want to go with us and sit with us, the money is due September 6th. You will, however, be responsible for getting yourself there and home. Okay? If you break down while we're there, we might give you a ride. That just depends on the mood I'm in, how good the kids act. It really does. Okay. Do what? Yeah. Might. Just strap them to the hood or drag them behind us. That's a good solution. No, you may not sit on the hood. All right.
You make a funny looking board
I already told them. That's Sunday night. I told them.
Oh, great. Everybody stand up, please.
Echoes are many, they rise against me, but I will hold my ground. I will not fear the war, I will not fear the
Okay. I'll start by saying this. Getting this one ready was fun. There was one thing that was kind of like a roadblock for me, I guess. Every week, or every time I preach, when it's recorded, Tom will ask me afterward, what's the name of the video? I've got no idea, man. We'll burn that bridge when we get to it, okay? Wherever we went. Because we will be looking at conflict resolution in a way. Up to this point, we've been looking at our relationship with God. If at any point tonight you hear me refer to a vertical relationship, I mean our relationship with God, vertical, okay? I hope that's an easy illustration. If you hear me reference a horizontal relationship, that is our relationship with other people. Good job, Leslie's got it down. Leslie's like, I can do this. I paid attention in geometry. Okay. Yeah. Still, I guess it works. I have a longitude. I'll make it work. All right. And the reason I say that's hard because we've been talking about breaking free from guilt and shame, breaking free from fear and anxiety, breaking free from past decisions, breaking free from your past. All these things, we can't really say breaking free from conflict. That's not what we actually want to do, and that'll become clear as we dive into what we're looking at tonight. I'll go ahead and get this out and make it up front. Thomas, I was talking about you, just so you know. I have no idea what we're going to call this video, so we'll figure it out later, okay, buddy?
Gotcha.
All right. But yeah, as we break into this, you'll see what I mean by everything, and you'll see why it's not so much a fun one for you guys. It's fun for me to do because it's something I do often, especially when I'm talking with kids. 9 times out of 10, I'm working with them, so I actually hit on this quite often. But real quick recap, we've looked at how those of us who are children of God, those of us who are saved and are believers, we are forgiven by the person and work of Jesus Christ on the cross. We've talked about that, how that is a fact for us, regardless of our background, that we are justified in Christ. We've looked at how God delights in us despite us. Because these several weeks we've looked at how He's reconciled the relationship, how He's fixed our relationship that we have with Him, if we have a relationship with Him. We've looked at how He's fixed that and put it back together. And even though we imperfectly, on a daily basis, execute that relationship, what I mean by that, we still sin, we still mess up, right, guys? Okay, good. We're still on that same page. We've looked at, even though we do that, He still delights in us. He still likes us. Now, even though we've got that reconciled relationship, the vertical relationship has been restored, I still sin against my fellow man, and my fellow man still sins against me. Is that true for anybody else in here? We're going to do a couple of polls tonight, so just get used to it. All right? David is the only one that raised his hand. I don't know if he was stretching or if he was raising his hand, helping me out, but I'm going to take it either way. David, help me out there. All right, so don't miss that. I still sin against other people, and other people still sin against me. Now, if we are going to get anywhere with our relationships with other people, we need to be able to very seriously get a grasp on our relationship with God. Because if we can't take that seriously, we will end up in shallow relationships with other people. So we need to take seriously our relationship with God, our understanding of His Word, so that we do these things for the sake of our relationship with other people. The reason that's so hard, and as I'm sitting here thinking through this, this has just been true with most people that I've met in my life. Okay, so I'm guessing most of us, even when we sin against another person, even when we do something wrong to somebody else, more often than not, we feel like it's their fault or they started it. Okay? And we would never admit that, but if we step back and look at some of the situations, we actually do tend to do that more than we would like to admit. We respond in a negative way to how they negatively acted towards us. A lot of tonight is going to be about owning your own sin. Now here's what I'll say. There are few aspects of life that will make an adult downshift into some kind of 4th grade playground behavior, but owning their own sin is one of them, okay? People refuse to be the victim. Some people love being the victim, but they will blow things out of proportion. They'll blow them out of the water. We try and justify them in every way that we can think to do so. And we use excuses like, well, you don't know what they did to me beforehand, yada, yada, yada. The Bible teaches us, and this is in Romans. I don't have it for the sake of time. I'm not going over it tonight. But I'm just going to let you know. It's in Romans, I think somewhere around chapter 10, 12, I'm guessing. Somewhere in there. But it teaches us that if possible, we should live peaceably. We should live in peace and harmony. Keep it really simple for you guys. We should try to get along with everybody, okay? Everybody. It doesn't give any other justifications or excuses as to why we should not do that. It says, if possible, so we should always, all the time, on our own, we should be able to absorb or overlook an offense done to us. We'll come back to that. Now, going back to the 4th grade playground behavior of not wanting to own your own sin. Before we get into this, we don't use our owning of our own sin. I'll use the example that was put to me. When professional athletes have to apologize on TV, there are some instances, not always, but there are some instances, any of you that watch anything sports related, you'll catch how they say, I'm sorry I made you feel this way. You see how they turned around and made it about them? They didn't actually own anything. We tend to do that. I'll be a little bit more blunt or explicit with it. This would be like me walking up to one of you and saying, hey, I need you to forgive me because you're a jerk. And because of your jerkness, I responded negatively to that jerkness.
Amen.
Now, in that dirtbaggery of yours, you made me act like a dirtbag. That was the example I came across when studying this, and I loved it. People do that so often. I didn't own anything. I made that about them, and I made some kind of platform to try and get into their life and make them feel bad about what they did. No, that's not a concern for their soul. That's not a concern for their well-being. This is you wanting to pry into them and make them feel bad for what they did to make you sin. So we need to be able to own our own sin. Look, I lied. I gossiped about you. I slandered you. Whatever it may be, we need to be able to own our own sin. Otherwise, our relationships, both with God and with other people, will be shallow and they won't go very deep. Okay? Now, I talked about us needing to take it seriously. When I say that, it's not just when people sin against us or when we sin against other people. How many of you have ever sinned against? Real quick. Down, I'm not going to make you hold up. Okay, so it's almost unanimous. Everyone in this room, just about, has been sinned against. If you're paying any kind of attention, this is how you would say you've been sinned against. Now, I'm going to start with how we don't handle that. Okay, so when someone does you wrong, I'm going to start with the wrong way to handle it. What am I going to start with?
The wrong way.
C minus. What am I going to start with?
The wrong way.
You youth just got creamed by the adults. Just FYI, that makes me very sad. Normally I can't get you guys to be quiet. All right. So, most people, in general, most of the people that I've come across with, that I've noticed, that I've observed, I people watch in that sense, just like Brother Daniel, most people I've seen are conflict avoiders. Okay, so this will be one of the last polls, I promise. Raise your hand if you don't like conflict. I'm surprised because most people won't even raise their hand to that because they almost think it feels wrong raising your hand to that kind of issue. Especially if you're sitting next to a person that you have conflict with often. You're like, no, I'm not going to do it. Okay, so I'm surprised you were that open with it. They're probably like, yeah, this is the last poll. Let's just raise our hand to humor. We don't care what it is. I killed a guy. That's okay. I appreciate the humor. Humor me always. All right. So most people are conflict avoiders. These avoiders, they will deny ever being sinned against. Okay? There's a couple of ways we avoid it. We're going to start with the denial aspect. So you can do something blatantly wrong to somebody, and these people that don't like conflict, they will just completely, no, it's okay. Don't worry about it. While in their heart and in their soul, it has wounded them, it has hurt them, they may not even realize because they've gotten so good at just denying it and brushing it off, while it's got these negative subliminal kind of effects on how they see other people, whether it's family or friends or spouses or coworkers. People so often deny the kind of trouble that they bounce into. Now, I want to make a small little side note here. See how I put it. I mentioned earlier that our first response when we're sinned against, when someone sins against us, we're going to do some bouncing back and forth here, so stay with me. When someone sins against us, our first response should be to absorb the offense or just overlook it. You guys understand what I mean when I say that? I'm talking to you guys.
Yes.
All right. So you overlook it. All right. Now, we are not the sin police. We don't need a little clipboard thinking, oh yeah, I saw what you did. I'm just going to write you a little note and send you off. We pay attention to every little detail to other people's sins, especially when they sin against us. Listen, to be keenly aware of another person's sin, yet ignorant of your own, is treading for a very, very wicked heart. I would be very careful. If you are keen to the sins of other people, if you can recognize the shortcomings of others, but you are oblivious or ignorant or in denial of your own, that sets you up for shallow relationships, especially with God. Right? So if we have no idea that we're sinning, if we don't care that we're sinning, if we're ignorant of it, whatever you want to say, I mean, what need have you for a Savior if you're like tapped out at 10 on all levels? You see what I'm saying there? Good. Now, I'll put it like this. Proverbs 19:11 says this. Good sense makes one slow to anger. So, okay, good sense. Smart people being smart. All right, good sense makes one slow to anger. And it is his glory to overlook an offense. So whose glory? His, not God's. The wise man's, the smart person's. It's their glory to overlook an offense. It's a rare case where the Bible takes the glory away from God and actually puts it on another person. So I think that's really cool because, I mean, it's his glory. This is why I believe that it says it's his glory when he can overlook an offense. Because it is the wise man, it is the wise woman who is aware of who they are as a sinner. They've got this keen understanding of what they've been forgiven of. So it's that person that's walking in and under grace so that they've been given the ability to do the same thing for another person. I say it all the time. Show me a person who refuses to forgive another human being, and I'll show you someone who knows grace in their brain and not in their heart. Good job. You've got that one a little bit faster than the adults did. Bravo, youth. Show me a person who cannot forgive, who refuses to forgive an offense, no matter how big or small. Forgiveness is touchy. And I'll show you a person who knows grace in their brain and not in their heart. It is the wise man's glory. It's his glory to overlook an offense. Now, that's what I mean by someone who avoids or denies that they've been sinned against. They don't want to deal with it. Now, how do we know when we can no longer overlook an offense? I'm glad you asked. It's when that root of bitterness starts to grow in our lives. So when someone sins against us and we kind of feel that little feeling of hate, I don't know how else to put it other than root of bitterness, when we get that grudge, when we have that sense more than it's okay, I forgive you, that is when we have stopped overlooking the offense. It's when you no longer trust the person. It's when you're no longer willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. That is a solid indicator of when a root of bitterness has started to take root in your heart. Now, I'd be careful of that because this is easiest for me with my coworkers, because everyone who's ever had a job ever thinks everybody else at their work is an idiot and you're the only one that knows how to do the job right. Maybe that's just me. That's not you absorbing it. I see this in my own life. I won't use the work one. I see this in my own life where someone will be seemingly trying to be genuinely spiritual about their life. Example, I've heard people say, man, Brian, the Word of God is just speaking to me so well this week. I'm like, really? It must not be speaking very loudly. Speaking two different languages there or something, okay? Because they've got such this history of sin, and I see this. That's not me absorbing it. They're past sins. Okay, that's that root of bitterness growing in me, where I'm just like, give me a break, really? I see that happening in my own life. That's me either denying, that's me avoiding. Be careful with that. Not only are there deniers, this is the more popular one, just they remove themselves from the situation altogether. This is the whole fight or flight concept that you learn in school. This is the ones that choose flight any and every time. For the sake of time, we're just going to call them flighters. I don't know if that's a real word. I don't think it is, but I'm going to coin it. All right? So the flighters. These guys know there's a problem. They won't deny it. They acknowledge it, but they refuse to be a part of it. So these are the ones that when they remove themselves from the conflict, they get a new job, they get a new school, they get a new marriage, they get new friendships, they get a new church. I've seen that happen one too many times. So when something bad happens in their life, they will just completely flee, regardless of who's in their life. They will flee and try and find a better, safer place. Now let's be straight with one another for a second. Where are you going to go? Have you found that neighborhood yet? Have you found that church? Have you found that school, that job where no one is going to do you wrong? I don't think they've got that code to kind of protect you from the sinners. Namely, you know why? Because you're there. Because I'm there. I see, all right, I'll talk to the kids for a second. I see all the time on Facebook these frankly stupid posts that they make, and the caption is always relationship goals, and it's this big long list of relationship goals or wants or desires, and it's like defining this perfect, what is it, Psalms 21 that's describing the woman, a perfectly godly woman, I think it's somewhere in there. Listen, until you meet that criteria, you will never get that goal, okay? Because you yourself fall short of it all the time. Adults, we do that too, with maybe not relationships like the kids do every other week. We do this with coworkers. I want the ideal boss. I want the ideal person working right beside me. Listen, until you meet that criteria that you've set out for another person, you want to talk about the heart of a Pharisee. I mean, let's be honest for a second, okay? So until we perfectly meet the standards that we've set up for other people, we have no room to be setting up those impossible standards. That sets us up for shallow relationships everywhere we turn. Now, there's the avoiders, and then there's the exact opposite of that. This is the aggressors. Honestly, I haven't seen too many of these growing up. I haven't seen too many of these even nowadays. I don't see too many people get aggressive. I see a lot of passive aggressive, but I put that in the avoidance area. Now, these are the people that are looking for someone to sin against them. This is the sin police type person that they know all the pertinent texts. They've got the scripture memorized. I mean, they got the Sunday school badges, like the Jesus bumper sticker on their car. They've just got this mentality of bring it, like a bad surgeon just waiting to cut around in people's lives because they want to belittle and demean somebody for sinning against them. Now, when I have seen it, I'll say this. It's hard for people to see that in themselves. You see what I'm saying there? That's an easy one because we will mistake that for like this holy, righteous anger when it's really pride. Actually, you want to know a good banner for it? A person like this will live under this banner of vengeance is mine, not saith the Lord. All right? So the Bible says, look, I'll take care of that fool that has sinned against you. You do what you should do, and we'll get to that in a minute in Matthew 18. But the aggressor will say, look, I got this. This is when someone has sinned against you, and all you can do is while you're driving down the road, think of what you want to do to get back at them. Think of any way that you can wound them. This is when you stop caring about their soul. I mean, this is another human being with a soul that has sinned just like you will do 5 minutes from now. You see what I'm saying there? Okay, so this is again us putting these impossible standards on another person. And it's not good for relationships. So if you or someone you know is the type to, when you're sinned against, you want to intimidate, you want to make them feel small, like they made you feel small, that is an aggressor. That's a wrong way to handle. So if you're the type that's constantly wanting to fight somebody, not so much them, but you guys. So if you're the type that's constantly wanting to pick a fight with somebody over the smallest petty thing, if you're the type that wants to fight somebody even if it's over something that you see as being major and important, that's an aggressor response. That's wrong. You're a bully in that instance. You're dehumanizing another person just because you want to make them feel small like they did to you. You see what I'm saying there? We need to be able to own our own sin if we're going to have any chance of having fulfilled relationships. Okay. So where does this put us? We've got the avoidance people. We've got the aggressive people. And that's, it puts us in a spot. I didn't give Thomas the verses, but this is where I want you to turn. This is one of the two places I want you to turn. So if you got your Bibles, go to Ephesians chapter 4. Ephesians chapter 4, we're going to be in verse 15.
Do you want it up?
No. I trust that everyone has a Bible. All right. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 15. And this is one of my favorite verses in the Bible. And I'll tell a lie here in a minute. So Ephesians 4:15. It puts us after the avoidance, after the aggressors. This is starting us taking steps for what we should do when we are sinned against or when we sin against another person. All right. Rather, speaking the truth in love, we are to grow up in every way into Him who is the head of Christ. Now, this speaking the truth in love, this is where I'm going to focus a lot of time. This is a hard thing to do sometimes. It's a painful thing to do sometimes. But what this is when we speak the truth in love. Let's pay attention to what's being said here. When we speak the truth in love, and when we hear that truth being spoken to us, we actually mature as Christians. If only everybody in the church saw it that way. Instead, most people, when they are approached with their sin, either they've sinned against somebody or when someone else in our lives sees our sin and we are approached by it, our natural reaction is to get defensive and put up our hands and fight back. If only we all had a humble attitude of, okay, maybe there's something here. I believe that our default posture when we're approached about our sin, when someone approaches us with our sin, even though the relationship is at risk, we should have a humble posture of maybe there's something there. So if someone approaches you and says, hey, I love you, let's talk about this, maybe you should stop and think, okay, let's see if there's something to this. This is part of our maturation in Christ. Is maturation a word? Matured? Us being matured? We'll go for it. Okay. So, speaking the truth in love is good for both parties. All right, both people involved. You may not like it. Neither of you might like it. But it's good for both of you. It matures the both of you. Now let's talk about speaking the truth in love, because some of you are looking at me like, I don't even know what that is. All right, let's see here. A parent, raise your, Herbie. Herbie's a parent. Okay, let's say young Wesley is just a few years younger than what he is now. Now, if Wesley gets a hold of a knife and he's running around playing in the street and he's just having a blast. Okay, so if Herbie takes the stance of, you know what, he loves it, let him do what he wants. Would that make him a bad father? Yes, absolutely, okay? Now, on the other hand, what if Herbie takes a Louisville Slugger out there and says, what did I tell you? He just beats him over the head with that bat. Would that make him a bad father?
No.
That would make him a terrible father, yes. Or TJ, don't have children. Okay, so you've got passive, you've got the aggressive, okay? So that's not, you see how neither of those work, right? Now, speaking the truth in love would be, okay, Wesley, come here. Not literally. He says, all right, put the knife down and come here. Wesley walks over. All right. You see that possum over there in the road? You see its guts and intestines and all that stuff? You see that mess? That's what happens when you play in the street. You want that to happen? Wesley says, no. I say, good job. Now some of you thinking, are you serious? Absolutely. Better to go through therapy and be alive. Learn the lesson alive than learn it dead, right? It says every good parent ever. All right?
Can you just tase him?
No.
All right, every good parent except David. He's going to start tasing you now. If you hadn't already thought of it, he's going to. I'd behave. Don't play in the streets. All right, so you see there, speaking the truth in love. That's saying what you need or what you believe to be best. This is refusing to let somebody make a mistake that has eternal ramifications. So let's say I see somebody sinning, just blatantly, I witness it. This isn't just some subtle thing on Facebook that I witness and I jump their case on Facebook. That's not how this works, okay? I approach them, I say, look, I love you, I care about you, I don't want this to end badly for you, even though there's a good chance that person is going to get mad at me and I will never see them again. That has happened more than one time. I have got to hurry up. So we get for starting 15 minutes late. All right, so how do we speak the truth in love? This brings us to our next text that you're going to turn to, Matthew chapter 18. 18 starting in verse 15. All right, and I will get something off my chest after I read this first verse. It says, if your brother sins against you, this is what we do, this is how we speak the truth in love, this is how we handle these relationships. If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. Okay, I've heard people put this passage, this chunk of text, specifically that verse, and say like this. Okay, so if you have a problem with somebody, you go to them. No, all right? I have problems with lots of people, but they haven't sinned against me, and I haven't sinned against them. I could just have a problem with their haircut, all right? And it also sounds, if you wait and if you step back, like, I've got a problem with this person. You see, that's almost like you putting it back on them instead of you owning your sin. So that's why I don't like it. This is dealing with sin in our relationships. All right, this is between two Christians. So specifically to you guys, some of you might do it. So if you see someone sinning on Facebook and you jump their bones on Facebook with some sort of comment, that is wrong, okay? Don't do that. That is not between you and them alone. Facebook's business is everybody's business. Are we clear on that? Facebook's business is everybody's business. And some of you guys are not ashamed of your dirty business. We giggle, but that's a sin, and we shouldn't giggle at that. Just FYI. We still giggle. Okay. Now, look at this again. If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens, you have gained a brother. All right. It's really easy for us to get pretty for an hour on Sunday and Wednesday. It's really easy for us to do that. This is why openness and communication between us, between the people of God, is so important. If you want to have a deeper relationship, when your lives go a little bit farther than the 1 or 2 hours a week you spend with them, God will start to surface some of your inconsistencies. He will start to surface some of their inconsistencies. And it's important that we know how to handle this. Now, my guess is most of us in this room, most of us, have 1 or 2 people tops that we love, trust, and respect enough that if they were to come to us and say, hey, look, I'm kind of starting to see this in your life, we would say, you know what, thank you, I appreciate that, I respect you for saying that to me, I love you, let me stop, think about this, and pray about it, and ask it. 1 or 2 people tops. Anybody else? We're like, are you serious? I'm glad you brought shortcomings up because I got a whole file on you, man. That's how most of us are with other people. We've got 1 or 2 people, mostly, I'll say it, our spouse and our pastor. Anybody else that does that, this is how closed off some of our relationships are. Those are the only 2 people we trust with our business. Okay? I mean that when I say it. There's a some of the older kids in the youth say, well, I can't go to church because I got a job. You haven't worked a Wednesday in 3 months. I approach them with their sin. You do life with somebody, you will have some flaws. You will have some shortcomings. There will be conflict. And sometimes Even though you speak the truth in love, the relationship can break. No, I've never been in an instance where I liked it, where I enjoyed it. I've never been in that because I know, even though I love them, that this could be bad for the relationship. It could cut it off. Especially if their heart is not in the right place. Especially if my heart is not in the right place. I talked about how we get upset when someone confronts us with our sin. Most of the time, especially with me, God's sense of humor towards me, most of the time it's the guy that I don't want. And my conversations with God turn out to be this, really, God, you're going to go show this guy my junk? You're going to reveal all this to him? And most of the time it's some clown that knows 2 verses in his Bible, has never even had a deep conversation with me. But he'll be, Brian, I think you're wrong on some things. Well, I think you're an idiot. No, can't do that. Got to stop. Wait, maybe this is true. It might very well be. Most of the time, it's not the person you want to do it. But our humble default position should be, maybe there's something here. Maybe someone approaches you and you're like that. Here's what I do. I ask a couple of people that I trust. Now, when I say trust, I'm not talking about your boy that's going to tell you whatever you want to hear. God willing, your spouse is not the person that's going to tell you whatever you want to hear. Please, for the sake of everything that's good in your life, give somebody permission to be honest with you. Okay? Not somebody that's going to put honey in your ears whenever every bad situation arises. Otherwise, you will put yourself on a pedestal, and the second that person is honest with you, you will destroy them. This is why I see a lot of my friends married a week, divorced the next. Married a week, divorced the next. Because they were not honest with each other, they were not open with each other, and it can happen to long marriages too. I have seen it happen. They tear them down when they're not open from the beginning. Go to them alone. All right, jumping ahead, picking back up in verse 16. But if he does not listen, take 1 or 2 others along with you, that every charge may be established by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. All right, this is not you picking 2 other people. So let's say Sean has done something wrong and Derek doesn't like it. This is not Derek picking 3 other people that he knows hate Sean so they can go dogpile on this fool after church. That's not how this works. All right? This is not how we do this. All right? And I will emphasize this. It says, go to the person. Don't go to your pastor with a problem you have with another person that you've been sinned against. It doesn't say that. It says, if you have been sinned against, you go to that person. The passive person, the conflict avoider, the way that's wrong, will go to another person and have them handle their trash for them. All right? Now, and I'll say this when it comes to, because I've had to do this many times. I teach a lot of people, they want to play tennis with me. When I say that, they give excuse after excuse after excuse. They go back a lot. But I just refuse to play that game with them. I said, look, this is what it is. Everyone here is seeing it. Look, I'll give a specific example. There was a group of me and my college friends. We had a little devotional group going, and one of us was married at the time, and the way he was talking to his wife was just complete and total sin. The way he was treating her was complete and total sin. And so I sat him down. I got coffee with him one day. We started talking. He said, no, I respect you for doing it, but I don't see it. Or he did see it, and he just doesn't want to own it, okay? I got the guys. I said, look, this is a problem. They agreed. They had seen it. So we sat down and talked with them. This is what this looks like, okay? This isn't me picking a bunch of guys that don't like another person. This is us going to them and we having to own our own sin. Pick it up in verse 17. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. Just FYI, we do this. I had to figure that out. We do this. Not many churches do this nowadays. But let's just say, example. Someone in the church is living in it. This is not a real story. I hope not. Let's say someone in the church is living in blatant adultery. They're not ashamed of it. They know it's in the Bible, they know it's wrong, but they just don't care. Okay, I can see that being something that is brought to the church. We do this. A church that loves each other will do this. A church that has a kingdom mindset will do this. A person who loves the soul of another person will confront them lovingly and humbly. It is a cheap love that avoids, and it is a cheap love that aggresses. But it is a real love that will speak the truth in love. All right? In love is important there. It doesn't matter if you're right. There have been many times where I'm right, but I wasn't very loving about it. Okay? They go together. You can hurt some souls. I have hurt some souls doing it that way before. All right? So that's just me owning some of my mistakes before you in an attempt to be always open and honest with one another. Tell it to the church, and if he refuses to listen even to the church, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Okay? So just really quick, for time's sake, Gentiles and tax collectors were seen as the scum of the earth at this point in time, okay? This is that, what's the word I'm looking for, excommunication aspect there. This is saying, look, if you can be an adulterer, if you can be a bully, if you can belittle another person knowing in the Bible it's wrong, have no remorse, that is not a regenerate person. That is not a Christian. All right? It is imperative that we get that there. And all of this is between Christian people, okay? Yep. So if you're sitting here trying to, what's sin matter to someone who doesn't believe in sin, right? All right, so this is between Christian people. I'll close with this. I'm cutting out a lot, but that's okay. I'll close with this. There is a verse in Proverbs 27, I think it is. It's iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. I see a lot of people who really like this verse. I get it. It's weird when you think about the process of iron sharpening iron. Does anybody know how this process works? I think so. It's a violent, ugly process. There are hammers, there's heat, there's sparks, there's a lot of striking. It's time-consuming. It's no fun to do. It is grueling. It is a very, very violent process. So you take that as iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. And this is how I want to encourage you with that. This is why I said we can't say this is breaking free from conflict, because it will always be there. Wherever you are, there will be conflict. That's just how we are as sinners. So we're not going to find that perfect place. But if iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another, that won't happen in a community of people who do not live their lives together. That will not happen in the community of people who do not love each other, even if they see sin, whether it's big or small, whether the other person is aware of it or not. If they see it, they will approach one another, they will handle it. And all this applies only, if and only we are able to own our own sin. If there was anything I could get you to take away with that, it would be that. That if you can't own your own sin, if you won't own your own sin, I don't know that we can call this a church. Do you know what I mean by that? I hope so. Okay? That's part of that transformation process that happens when God saves us. That's part of that regeneration process, is being aware of our sin. And if you're not, I would strongly advise, I would pray that you spend your own time in prayer. I would pray that you would see somebody. If you're just genuinely like, you know what, I don't see the sin in my life. I don't get it. Talk to me. Talk to Daniel. Talk to someone else you trust. Not someone that's going to tell you what you want to hear, but someone that will be honest with you. It is imperative that if we're going to grow, we are going to grow. Everyone wants a bigger church. Whether your heart's in the right place with that or not, if we're going to do that, it won't happen in a community of people that live in their box. It won't happen in a community of people that refuse to open up with one another. Let's pray. Father God, I thank you for my friends and my family that are here tonight. I pray that as we continue this series, as we just continue our lives together, I pray that you would soften our hearts. I pray that you would open our eyes to our sin. I pray that you would help us and give us the strength and the courage to speak the truth and love with one another, even though we know it might be hard, even though we know it might be painful. I pray that you would give us the courage and the wisdom to do these things. I pray that you would give us a heart to do them for the right reasons. I pray that nobody, if they are ever faced with a situation like this, that they would show up with this mindset, with this heart to belittle another person. I pray that you daily continue to transform and renew our minds. I pray that you help us, if any of us have a root of bitterness growing in our lives, I pray that you would help us to recognize it. I pray that you would help us to take care of that. And God, mostly I would just pray that you help us to be open with one another. Not out, I would hope that we know we have nothing to be ashamed of, that this is a safe place, that this is a faith family that we are in covenant with. I pray that you would just open our eyes to that. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.